What would you do if an Apache girl knocked on your cabin door at midnight and whispered, "My fire died. May I stay tonight?" One lonely cowboy made a choice that changed both their lives forever. Stay until the end for this unforgettable Wild West story. Don't forget to like, subscribe, and leave a comment if you enjoy inspiring Western adventures. Cole Harper had spent the entire afternoon repairing the weathered fence that marked the edge of his lonely ranch in the Arizona Territory. The golden sun was slowly sinking behind the rugged mountains, painting the desert sky with shades of orange and crimson. A warm breeze carried the scent of dry sagebrush, while his horses quietly grazed nearby. Life on the frontier had taught Cole to value silence, hard work, and caution. Since losing his family years earlier, he had lived alone, speaking more often to his horses than to other people. Even on peaceful evenings like this one, he never ignored strange sounds beyond the hills. As Cole gathered his tools, he noticed a lone figure moving slowly across the desert trail. At first, he thought it was a traveler searching for water, but the person's unsteady steps told a different story. As the figure came closer, he realized it was a young Apache woman wrapped in a faded blanket. Dust covered her clothing, and exhaustion showed plainly on her face. She paused a few feet away, breathing heavily before lifting her eyes toward him. In a soft, respectful voice, she whispered, "My fire died. May I stay tonight?" Her words carried both dignity and desperation. Cole remained silent for a moment. Life in the Wild West had taught him that every stranger carried a story, and not every story ended well. Tension between settlers and Apache tribes often led to misunderstandings, making trust difficult for everyone. Yet the young woman's tired eyes held no sign of deception. She looked hungry, cold, and frightened rather than dangerous. After a brief pause, Cole lowered his guard and answered honestly, "You can stay, but I've only got one bed." The Apache girl immediately nodded and replied that the floor beside the fireplace would be more than enough for her. The young woman introduced herself as Ayana and stepped carefully onto the ranch porch. Cole opened the cabin door, allowing the warm glow from the fireplace to spill into the cool evening air. Inside, the small cabin was simple but welcoming, with rough wooden furniture, a sturdy dining table, and shelves filled with supplies. Ayana quietly admired the peaceful room without touching anything unnecessarily. She removed her worn blanket, revealing clothes stained by days of travel through the desert. Cole handed her a clean towel and invited her to warm herself by the fire while he prepared something hot to eat. In the small kitchen, Cole heated a pot of beef stew that had been simmering since morning. He poured fresh coffee into 2 tin cups and sliced thick pieces of homemade bread. The comforting smell quickly filled the cabin, causing Ayana to smile for the first time since arriving. She accepted the meal with sincere gratitude, eating slowly instead of rushing despite her obvious hunger. Cole noticed her careful manners and quiet respect. She thanked him for every small kindness, proving she valued generosity rather than expecting it. The silence between them gradually became peaceful instead of uncomfortable. As they shared dinner, Cole gently asked what had brought her so far from her people. Ayana lowered her eyes before explaining that she had become separated from her family while escaping a ruthless gang of horse thieves. The outlaws had attacked a small Apache camp before sunrise, stealing horses and supplies while chasing anyone who resisted. During the confusion, Ayana fled into the mountains, hoping to find safety. She had wandered alone for 2 days with little food and no fire. Her greatest fear was not for herself, but for the family she had been forced to leave behind. Cole listened without interrupting. He knew the horse thieves she described. The gang had robbed ranches across the territory, leaving fear wherever they traveled. They cared little whether their victims were settlers, traders, or native families. Hearing Ayana's story strengthened his belief that offering her shelter had been the right decision. After they finished eating, he placed another log onto the fire and spread an extra blanket near the fireplace for her. Although he remained cautious, he felt responsible for protecting a guest who had arrived at his door, seeking nothing more than a safe place to survive the night. Outside, darkness settled over the Arizona desert as powerful winds swept through the valley. The old cabin creaked while rain clouds gathered above the distant mountains. Cole checked the windows, secured the stable, and made sure his horses were safely inside before returning to the cabin. Just as he closed the door, faint hoofbeats echoed across the empty landscape. They were distant but unmistakable, growing louder with every passing moment. Cole exchanged a worried glance with Ayanna, whose expression suddenly turned pale. Without saying a word, both understood the same frightening truth. Someone had followed her trail, and the peaceful night was about to become far more dangerous. Before the first light of dawn touched the Arizona desert, the peaceful silence around Cole Harper's ranch was broken by the sound of approaching horses. Heavy hoofbeats echoed through the valley as a group of armed riders surrounded the small cabin from every direction. Their faces were hidden beneath dusty hats and bandanas, but their intentions were clear. One of them shouted, demanding that Cole hand over the Apache hiding inside. They claimed she belonged to them and warned that anyone protecting her would face the same fate. Standing inside the cabin, Ayanna's heart raced as she recognized the voices of the horse thieves who had destroyed her family's camp. Cole quietly looked through the cabin window before reaching for his rifle hanging beside the door. He had no desire to start a gunfight, but he refused to betray someone who had trusted him enough to seek shelter. Stepping onto the porch, he calmly faced the armed riders without showing fear. Their leader repeated his demand, promising to leave peacefully if Cole surrendered the young woman. Cole answered with a steady voice that no innocent guest would ever be handed over from his ranch. His words surprised the outlaws, who expected an old rancher to protect only himself instead of risking everything for a stranger. While the outlaws argued with Cole, Ayanna quietly slipped through the back door exactly as he had hoped she would. She stayed low behind bushes and carefully climbed a narrow trail leading toward a rocky ridge overlooking the valley. Every step tested her strength after days without proper rest, but she refused to stop. Reaching the top, she gathered dry branches and sagebrush hidden beneath the rocks. Using flint she always carried around her neck, she quickly lit a bright signal fire. Thick gray smoke rose into the morning sky, carrying an ancient Apache message that every nearby warrior would immediately recognize. Back at the ranch, tension continued to rise as the outlaws slowly moved closer. Their leader counted loudly, giving Cole only moments to change his mind. Instead of backing away, Cole stood firmly beside his porch, keeping his rifle lowered but ready. He knew firing the first shot would only make the situation worse. His courage confused the gang, buying valuable time. Suddenly, one rider looked toward the distant ridge and noticed the column of smoke rising into the sky. Before anyone could react, faint war cries echoed across the hills. The sound grew louder every second, sending nervous glances through the outlaw camp. Within minutes, dozens of Apache warriors appeared along the rocky cliffs surrounding the valley. Mounted on fast horses and carrying bows, rifles, and spears, they moved with remarkable discipline instead of reckless anger. The outlaws suddenly realized they had lost every advantage. Surrounded from higher ground, they knew escape would soon become impossible. Their leader cursed loudly before ordering his men to retreat. Without firing a single shot, the frightened gang turned their horses and disappeared across the desert as quickly as they had arrived. Cole lowered his rifle with relief, thankful that wisdom and patience had prevented unnecessary bloodshed on his peaceful ranch. The Apache warriors approached the ranch with caution until Ayanna stepped forward and explained everything that had happened during the night. Soon afterward, the tribal chief rode to the front of the group. He was an older man whose calm eyes reflected both strength and wisdom. After listening to his daughter's story, he dismounted and walked toward Cole. Instead of offering gold or expensive gifts, the chief placed his hand over his heart as a sign of deep respect. He thanked the cowboy for choosing courage over fear and protecting an innocent traveler when many others would have turned her away. As the golden morning sun rose above the Arizona mountains, the fear that had filled the ranch slowly disappeared. The Apache warriors helped repair the damaged fence left by the outlaws, while sharing food and laughter with Cole. What had begun as a night of uncertainty became the beginning of an unexpected friendship built on honesty and mutual respect. Before leaving, the chief invited Cole to visit their village as an honored friend whenever he wished. Ayanna smiled warmly, knowing she would never forget the kindness shown by a lonely cowboy who had expected nothing in return. When the last riders disappeared beyond the hills, Cole stood quietly outside his cabin, watching the peaceful desert awaken once again. Birds circled overhead, and the morning breeze carried away the smoke from the signal fire. He realized that true courage was not measured by winning battles, but by protecting those who needed help, even when the risk was great. Ayanna thanked him one final time before riding home beside her family. Both understood that their lives had changed forever. Sometimes a single warm bed is not what saves a life. It is the brave heart willing to open its door when someone has nowhere else to go.